whole point of this website is to strengthen community. The buyer and the seller are texting directly, so I'm actually introducing people together. So I think that together we're stronger.
What's up, everybody? Tyler here over at CleanKix. We've got a special guest in today. I will let him introduce himself here in just a minute. Before you get through the rest of the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and get a discussion kind of going down in the comments related to the topic that we're going to talk about today. I think you guys will find it very interesting. So why don't you tell everybody what your name is?
Well, my name is Ike Lewis, and I started a company called Flip or Drip LLC. It's basically a marketplace for sneakers. Kind of the draw to this website, soon to be an app, by the way, is that there's no transaction fees. So right now it's totally free. You know, I'm really excited to see what people make of it, but just know that it's not quite perfected yet. So we're not really going to market. We're not doing billboards or anything like that at this point. We're just kind of testing and making sure that we get this thing perfect.
So how did you come up with this idea, Flip or Drip?
I've been a sneaker guy for quite some time. During COVID, during the lockdown, I think a lot of people got into sneakers, and I realized there wasn't a perfect place to buy and sell sneakers. And so, I mean, you're familiar with everything. There's the apps that charge a lot of money. They take a lot of time to have shoes ship. If you want to sell locally or buy locally, you've got some options. You've got sneaker stores, you've got KSL, you've got the resellers on Facebook and Instagram, but none of them are perfect either. A lot of the sneaker stores charge even more than the apps. If you do find a reseller that's on Instagram, it's hard to find like the exact shoe that you want. You kind of have to scroll through their inventory. If you go to KSL, then the problem is, you know, you can do a search for Jordans, but you're going to see cowboy boots in West Jordan and South Jordan, and so it's really hard to find exactly what you want. So with this website, you can find out exactly what shoes are available in your size in just seconds, and so it's a real super helpful tool if you're looking.
What do you feel like has been the most challenging aspect of getting this kind of up and off the ground?
So I had the idea for about a year before I did anything about it. I mean, but there hasn't been one thing that hasn't been challenging about this process. Just taking the first step. I tell everyone, I have this idea, this needs to happen, someone needs to do this, and then finally getting like the courage to actually start the process, find a programmer and start building it was kind of intimidating because everyone has ideas, but not everyone executes or follows up on their ideas. And so a lot of the problem is people are afraid to fail at something. And so I just decided if it fails, it fails. If I have this thing and I present it to everyone and they don't like it, I'm okay with it because the process has been kind of fun, and I can totally live with it if this is a product that people don't have any interest in, and that is a possibility. It is possible that I launch this thing and people are comfortable with what they're doing. They're comfortable with paying lots of fees or whatever, and that's fine. But I'm definitely going to give it my best shot.
I think in my eyes, this app provides like a very safe and like reliable way, especially to get things done more locally, to help people who are just maybe getting into the reselling scene make a name for themselves. So I think in a lot of different aspects, it's going to be very impactful for a lot of people. And then of course, I think the biggest thing with this is like being able to avoid those fees that are associated with any of the other apps that you're going to buy from is always a big plus, because that just means more cash in your pocket to continue to buy more shoes. So how long, I mean, you said back in 2020, you kind of started things. Is that when you kind of got the ball rolling on things? Was stuff happening before that? Or?
2020 is kind of when I started thinking of, well, what should it be called? And so I went through all these different names and everything and finally found the name, found the domain. Luckily, flipordrip.com was available. I couldn't believe it, so I paid $9 for it. So I kind of lucked out on that. And honestly, like I've not really been a huge fan of the name itself. It's kind of, for me, I don't like to say drip. I never say drip, but it just kind of fits anyway. I had a guy, a friend of mine, design the logo. His name's Rich Bennett, and he did a logo for Pearl Jam, Rihanna. He did the hair logo for Conan O'Brien's Rage Against the Machine. So he's done a lot of cool things. I was lucky to have him work on it, but I mean, he came up with the logo in just minutes with the F, with the drip, and I was super happy with it. And that helped a lot because as soon as I saw the branding, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is actually really good. Like I think people are really going to like this. And so, and then the website just kind of fell into place with that same kind of look and feel and everything. And so, like I said, it's not perfect, but we're pretty happy with how far we've come with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was like the thing that drew my attention the most, knowing kind of what the name was, but just being able to see the logo and having both of those in there and knowing what it stands for, like I think it was awesome. It's an amazing job. What is your favorite part of what what you do, or maybe of all this process?
So this is going to sound super cheesy, but I promise it's the truth. Like, it really is the people. I'm a huge sneakerhead. I love sneakers, but there's just something magic about shoes. And so, I've seen people open presents on their birthdays and it's like, oh yeah, thanks. But as soon as they open the shoes, it's like I've seen people like tear up a little bit. Like, it's just a pair of shoes, but it's like there's so much more. And so for me, it's been nice to see people, happy to rep the brand, even like to wear the hats or the t-shirts or everything. And my favorite part is when people will text me and they'll say, hey, I sold a pair of shoes on your website. Thank you so much for building this. And so I'm like, that feels really good. Like, to have something that I've, created that people are actually like, they're proud of. They're almost like they're rooting for it to happen, because if this thing is successful, it can really change things.
I think, having this idea and having support from the community and, different people, and just feeling that and being able to see this thing kind of work in progress. I mean, it's a great feeling. I mean, even with CleanKix, kind of what we've done here, and being able to build something and to get a following from that and get support, I think you're right. The people are really what make your product what you want it to be. So what are some of the future plans for your website?
The app is priority number one. The app is actually available on Android right now, so you could go and download that, but I don't know who has an Android. We did get approval from Apple, and so we just have a few minor tweaks, but at least it's in our hands. At least we're the ones that can say, okay, it's ready. But I mean, we thought that we'd have the app ready in September, and it's just taking so long to do everything that Apple requires, and we're really excited for that, because once the app launches, then I've got a business partner that's, he's like a race car on a red light, just ready to go and push this thing as hard as he can. Hopefully we get some traction, hopefully we get some positive feedback. But that's it. As soon as the app is ready, then we're going to put everything we have into it.
What are some of your thoughts on the current state of sneakers versus what it's been in the past?
A lot of people got into the sneaker game because of the reselling, and so I think those people are starting to get sifted out, because the sneaker community, the sneaker world, kind of seems to be on life support right now. Those who are in it for the shoes, I think, are really going to enjoy what's coming, because they can get the shoes they want for a reasonable price. And those that are not here for the sneakers, they're here for, to make some money, I think they're eventually going to have to find something else to do. But I'm an OG head. I like the original Jordans, the stuff that Jordan actually wore on the court. And so I love seeing Nike release all those, and I love seeing those shoes actually be easy to obtain. So yeah, I'm super happy with how the market's going.
So if you came across a pair of fake sneakers, or let's say I went and bought a pair off of the website and they ended up being fake, what would happen then?
The thing is, nobody can guarantee that shoes are authentic. I don't care who you are. It's a tough thing to do, but just know that fakes are not allowed on the site. I have seen fakes on the site. I've deleted them. There was one pair where I actually met the seller in person just to see if they were fake, found out they were fake, and so he got blocked. He can't sell anymore. And so I take it seriously. You just got to remember that this website is supposed to be what is happening in the sneaker market. And what I mean by that is people are selling all day long on Facebook Marketplace. They're selling all day long on KSL. They're selling all day long on Instagram. And if someone gets a fake pair of shoes on any of those platforms, they don't blame Instagram. They don't blame KSL. They don't blame anyone else, because they're not guaranteeing the authenticity, right? And so what I do is I try and vet the seller. The idea for the website is that you can't sell sneakers. You can't even get an account unless you know someone who already has an account. So I think that's the safe way to grow it for now. We're going to keep this thing as clean as possible, as long as possible. Another thing with fakes, though, I would hope that the seller would be mindful of their reputation, because when you do have a seller account, you do get a 5-star rating. There is a place where people can leave reviews, and so if you screwed someone over on a pair of fakes, they're going to blast you on there, and you can't get away with it. And so it kind of forces people to do the right thing. But if you're in the game long enough, you're going to come across a pair of fakes. And so the question is, what do you do after? Are you going to make it right? Are you going to give a refund? Are you going to reverse the transaction, or are you going to just stick it to them and say buyer beware? If you're the type of guy that says all sells final, buyer beware, then you're not the type of seller that I'm looking for to promote on my platform. Yeah, we'll do our best without actually guaranteeing the authenticity, because I just don't believe that that's possible.
I agree. I think it's so hard, especially with how good said, they're making reps today. It's almost 1-to-1. So impossible to tell on pairs. And, you know, people will make mistakes. You may get a pair of shoes in that you try and sell. They end up coming back as fake, but then it's up to you, like you were saying, to make sure you make that situation right as a seller.
Also, when it comes to fakes, one of the benefits to Flip or Drip is that you will be able to have the sneakers in your hand to inspect them before you pull your wallet out to pay for them. So we don't like shipping because I believe that with shipping comes fraud. And, you know, this time you actually get to look and hold what it is that you're paying for, and you can decide then if they're real. But we also encourage people to do their own due diligence. There's a lot of YouTube videos that do the real versus fake, and so you can prep before you go out and buy a pair of sneakers from someone by looking at, like, okay, so when I hold the sneaker in my hand, does it have this stitching or whatever? They can educate themselves, and I think that's actually probably better if you're buying and selling sneakers than to rely on someone to do a quick check.
How are you going to handle payments happening through the app?
So we don't get involved on the transactions, and it's going to work the same way that works on Instagram. So, I mean, they'll just do cash, they'll do Venmo, but, you know, when they meet up in person, they'll make the transaction happen. But the reason that we do this, I mean, because we're big on not charging transaction fees, because that's really what's going to set us apart. Because if we were to get involved in transactions, then we do have information that we could provide to the IRS for all the sellers, which we don't want to do. Don't know how many pairs are being sold, because as soon as a pair gets sold, it just gets deleted. I don't know how much money the sellers are making, and we're not going to make money that way. We'll find other ways to make money, but we're not going to get involved in transactions.
Up until this point, it kind of feels like this is more of a local thing. Do you guys have plans to expand this to additional states, or kind of what's the outlook like?
That's right. We kind of wanted to test the concept in Utah. If it was successful in Utah, we wanted to branch out. Right now, when you list a pair of shoes, you're going to have the option to list what state you're in. And so the idea there is when someone goes on to do a search, they can sort by the state that they're in. So they can get the state that they're in, they can do the size, the make, the model, whether it's new or used, so they can quickly just funnel out everything and see what is available. Because you got to remember, the whole point of this website is to strengthen communities, but especially someone who's looking for a pair of shoes, I want them to be able to have a very thorough search of what is available locally before they go to the apps. You have to think that what the big apps do is they basically separate people. They get in the middle, they take a transaction, they keep the buyer over here, they keep the seller over here. But what I do is the exact opposite. With the platform, when you find a pair of shoes that you like, the buyer and the seller are texting directly. So I'm actually introducing people together. So I think that together we're stronger.
I feel the same way. Honestly, I do feel like a lot of the resellers are kind of getting sifted out just because you can find so many retros and just Jordans just sitting kind of wherever you go, Foot Locker, Nike stores, whatever it may be. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next, I'd say 6 months to a year, if that number continues to decrease, if things kind of level out. Definitely interesting. Last question I got for you. Where do you think the sneaker game is headed next, as far as like what's going to be put out, what's going to be popular, kind of in that regard?
It's hard to say. Like, you could speculate all day on what you think the popular shoe is going to be, because the Jordan 1 seems to have fallen off. The Jordan 4 is probably the most popular Jordan right now, but it seems like it's kind of losing some steam. It's hard to say if the Dunks are going to continue to be popular, the SBs, or if something else that Travis Scott promotes. So I honestly have no idea. One thing that I've been thinking about for a while now is how the IRS is dealing with it, because I think a lot of kids made a lot of money and didn't pay Uncle Sam. And so, I mean, you know this too, if you sell and make more than $600 profit on any of the apps, that StockX, GOAT and everything, what they do is they send the IRS a 1099-K, which means that they're basically telling the IRS how much money you've made, because they know. And so I think that's going to be really hard for resellers to turn a profit when they actually have to treat this little side hustle like an actual business. And so I think that's going to be another thing that sips people out. It's going to be harder to make money. And you have, kind of Yeezys kind of going away. And so I think that was a huge chunk that we're going to be missing. So I honestly have no idea what we're in store for. As long as they keep releasing the retro Jordans, like, I'm fine. I don't even care. I'll keep buying them. So
as long as we have the OGs, then we're going to be just fine. I think that's all that I have for you. Do you want to just tell everybody one last time, kind of promote yourself?
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, by the way, coming here. You guys, thanks for having me on. You can follow me on Instagram. It's flip.or.drip. The website is flipordrip.com. Go there, find a pair of shoes, set up a profile, sell some shoes at no fees. App's coming soon. And, once it launches, I'll do my best to make sure everyone is aware of it. Trust me on that.
So will we. We want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come do this interview with us. Make sure you guys go follow his socials, and then as soon as that app comes, you will for sure know. We will let you know. It'll get blasted out. You'll have a hard time missing it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and over to CleanKix G.